Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Age South Forum on Sustainability. The theme is the politics of hope, people's resilience and resistance in catastrophic times. Today we have Dialogue 8, Traditional Medicine, Decolonizing Knowledge. We provide English, Chinese, Spanish, and Portuguese simultaneous interpretation. You can choose the interpretation at the bottom of the computer screen. We would like to thank today's interpreters, Sandrine Alongi, Mercedes Picot, Isa Paula Morales, Matt Batarat, Huang Xiaomei, and Liang Yin. May I first introduce the co-moderators for today's session. My name is Tsui, Margaret Dradi. I am Associate Professor at the Institute of Rural Reconstruction of China and in Southwest University in China. I'm board member of Asian Regional Exchange for New Alternatives and one of the founding members of Global University for Sustainability. I have been actively involved in the rural reconstruction movement in China since 2000. And Rosy ZUNIGA, she is a popular feminist educator and socialist and a sociologist, member of the strategic coordination team of the Council of Popular Education of Latin America and the Caribbean, and of the International Council of the World Social Forum. She is also member of the facilitating group of the World Social Forum in Mexico and of the collective of the Festival for the Dignity of the Peoples. And she also worked for the Ask to Breathe. And another co-moderator is Hernán Vargas. He is the spokesperson from the movement of people to people, and he is also ALBA movement platform political articulation with the main spokesperson, and he is an independent researcher on social reproduction and popular economies. He is also the founding member of Venezuela Observatory on Popular Economies. So I pass it to Rosy ZUNIGA. Thank you. Rosy, please.
Thank you very much, Jadi. It's a pleasure to be here, and I thank you very much for this opportunity of being co-moderator. It's an honor to be here with you from Mexico. I would like to share with you that in January this year, we held the virtual World Social Forum to celebrate 20 years. We did a continental mobilization where different movements and organizations, we got together in a synchronous and asynchronous way, and we held different dialogues, and the presence of women was very important. We had approximately 60% of those who signed up were women. We were very mobilized. We worked along different themes: peace culture, solidarity economy, economic justice, social justice, democracy, feminisms, climate change. I think it was an impressive mobilization. And now we are working towards Mexico. I would like to remind you that in the 7th South Forum, we also held a dialogue about traditional medicine and the paths that indigenous peoples follow. It was a very interesting dialogue with very different voices from India, also other Asian countries, Latin America, Africa, where we problematized how they want to sell us health. Health is being contested in our capitalist logic, but also how the different peoples are constructing their own millennial tools for health, not only for the times that we are living now with the pandemic, but also how there are different strategies to heal our bodies, our minds, our hearts, and our relationships. It was impressive to see the strategies of millenary Chinese medicinal plants in Africa to face malaria, and also how the dispute for this hegemonic discourse is also done through cinema. We also had a film director at that time. I think it was Katarina Wayne Gardner, and it was very interesting. They showed how to use ancestral knowledge to heal, and it was impressive. Hernán was saying at some time during that meeting that it was very important that we meet at some point in person in our countries in order to continue sharing these experiences. And I also want to share that from Mexico, we are preparing the conditions to carry out the World Social Forum in next May 2022. And we hope that we will be able to have the presence of many of you and that we are able to do it in person, but also virtually, doing this virtual connection, both virtual and in person, because that we know that it's a way to be more together, more time together, and to be connected through different means. So I welcome you all warmly, and I give the floor to my comrade Hernán, who is here from Venezuela.
As you said before, I'm from Venezuela. I'm from an urban platform here. And during this last year, we had the opportunity to organize, well, actually, we have been invited to co-organize traditional medicine seminars with our friends from Global University and Lingnan. And in that opportunity, we could discuss a little about traditional Chinese medicine, but also in a wider sense on the different traditional medicine. So in that time, we could exchange different positions and possibilities. So from that, I think I would like to share maybe a couple of lessons that we kind of share here in Venezuela about that seminar. Maybe three of them. The first one that we were discussing is the opportunity, the importance of this philosophy that Chinese traditional medicine share with us, because we learned that it's not about to center in the illness. It's about to be centered in the ill person, in the ill people. And it's about to restore harmony, not only the harmony with himself, with his own body, but also the harmony with the nature and with the rest of the people around. So that's quite an important lesson at this very moment that we live in the humanity. Second lesson that we sharing here in Venezuela, it's about the importance of the indigenous traditional medicine, which tell us about the importance of center the life in the reproduction of itself, of the reproduction of a life in community. And that's quite interesting because it's about to heal ourselves as a part of a community, not only a community of people, but also a community with our ancestors and also a community with the nature. So it's quite a different cosmogony of the world in order to understand the current moment. And we think that it's quite important to tune with this current crisis that we are living. And the third lesson that maybe we could share from our experience in these discussions is about how these traditional medicine ways can give us an important lesson for this current moment of crisis of the civilizatory system of capital, which is actually emphasized by the coronavirus, which actually shares how the life is in danger at this current moment, and how the traditional medicine is a way of our peoples to basically defend life. And that's quite important when we see that, for example, in here in Venezuela, we have these sanctions from the US, this blockade. And in that moment, the traditional medicine has been a quite important tool in order to protect life. But also we can see the way that Argentina is also, I mean, it's not, they doesn't have sanctions, but they also leave the suffering of a system where the vaccines are an expensive commodity or an expensive merchandise, and they have to pull together in order to preserve life, because they are not able to buy all the vaccines that they need. So it's a quite important moment to get together the people of the world in order to fight with this monopolization of the vaccines, but also to reconnect with our traditional ways of protecting, defending life.
Vamos a presentar a Lucia, la doctora Lucia Helena B. Rangel. Ella es una docente, asistente de doctorado.
Lucia Helena. She's a coordinator for social sciences from the University of São Paulo, PUC. She's also vice coordinator of the Social and Environmental Sciences course at the Social Sciences College at PUC, São Paulo, researcher at the Research Center for Youth in the Metropolis, Center for Complexity Studies, and the Center for Studies on Environment, Indigenous People, and Traditional Communities.
From traditional communities.
She works with indigenous ethnology, social environmental studies, indigenous youth, violence against indigenous people in Brazil, education, spirituality, ways of being, existing, and thinking among indigenous people. I welcome you warmly. I'd like to thank you very much for having me, for inviting me, for participating of this event. I'd like to thank Margaret Jade, Tsui, is that how I pronounce your name? And also, thank you, and let you know that I'm very honored to be part of this panel. My experience of research and living and having partnership with the indigenous people in Brazil made me know their universe, that for more than 40 years I have been diving deeply into their lives and knowledge. Indigenous people in Brazil today, they are suffering a lot of pressure and violence, very strong on part of the Brazilian government. This government, they want to destroy, to dismantle their rights that they have achieved in the last years. In this context of pandemic, indigenous people, they were strongly affected in a very complex manner, because they are people that present 5 centuries a certain vulnerability for infectious conditions. Above all, the area conditions of infection, lung infection, all of these aerial conditions, and coronavirus is a virus that is an aerial virus. That's the reason why there were lots of concern of many people. The Ministry of Health and CEAAL, indigenous people, they haven't helped, they haven't offered any protection for them, and the people started then to have sanitary barriers before people entered in their lands, so they were not invaded, and it has been for lots of people, woodcutters, farmers. there was lots of violence against them by these agencies. They entered violently, breaking their sanitary barriers. They were armed and putting their this population in panic. So there are more than 500,000 deaths. And lots of contamination. Lots and lots of contamination. The Brazilian Association of the Indigenous People from Brazil, APIB, they are following everything that is happening to them. They accompany that regularly, these figures, the figures from the pandemic, to learn what is taking place with the indigenous people. This confrontation with every agent, or many different agents, as I have said, miners, farmers, they were supported by the Environment Ministry and also by the Health Ministry, and there has been a great struggle. But I'm just saying that as an introduction of my speech to let you know that they are also suffering in some villages, in some places, that the organization made them create spaces of isolation. All of them, they have done that, spaces of isolation for the sick people. And they themselves, they are trying very hard to protect themselves from miners, from farmers. They have certain measures and references in their traditional medicine of using medicines and ways of taking care of themselves that they normally use in a moment such as this. In some places, the agents of CEAAL, the Secretariat of Indigenous Health, they are in contact, direct contact, and they are discussing with indigenous people and helping them in the actions of prevention and also protection of their communities. In some places, in some villages, it has been working very well because these villages, indigenous villages, that are nurses, physicians, agents of the Western medicine, Eastern medicine, they respect the traditional medicine. And when in these places when there is this conversation and this respect, the conversation flows very well in the way that they take care of their health. It's the case of what we call Xingu. It's a specific area. It's called Brazilian Xingu Park. In these places of Xingu, in this park, those who work with health system and their agents, they are very connected. They know well their communities, and above all, they were respected. There was a physician there saying that they work in their way, but more than respecting, I really believe in their work. It was the very first time that I heard a physician say about that they respect, people. I believe, I respect in your physician, in your, what I would call their specific physicians that live in this neighborhood. Indigenous Brazilian people, they are spread out in Brazil. They live in different regions in Brazil. They have a very good connection In some places, there is no connection, but what happened this year was that they were left aside. The population suffered a lot. During 2021 and 2020, there were many invasions of their lands by these agents of the destruction in Brazil of wood, gold. Well, it's maybe currently the greatest problem that they have. So just to let you know about the traditional medicine, first of all, I'm going to ask you please to apologize for Margaret Judge. I've also apologized to her, but because the text was in a very bad format, I tried to solve that, but it's still not in a good format. I had problems with my computer. He was good, but my computer, I'd say he died. That's the reason why I had to buy a new computer, redo it all, but it's not good yet, but I will do that. I'm going to read the text right now because it was sent. It's possible to follow that up. The traditional medicine, there are complex learnings and practices that are integrating. I think that this is the main focus of what is the meaning of a traditional medicine. Traditional medicine is part of a set of practices and ancestral knowledge. It is conveyed orally in social spheres and is still enforced in the lives of different communities, either in the farms, in the cities, in the villages, in the small towns, or in neighborhoods, urban neighborhoods. Health and diseases, they are treated in a very complete manner and always integrated. In Brazilian reality, many people, they have supported, they have helped in the formation of habits. Above all, the originary people, they are called indigenous people, and those who came from Africa as well, besides the Portuguese. The Portuguese hegemony in the political aspects, economic aspects, religious aspects, and moral as well, they were imposed in a forced manner, forced and violent through the slavery in Brazil. They have presented gaps of many different manners, given that the control above all the people were not completely homogenized. In addition to the possibility of putting away the colonial undertaking, it was really the main subject in this process of 4 centuries, and there is one more century that we have to say that this process is completed, in addition of the possibility to distant places, the knowledge and learnings of the people, indigenous people, they are fundamental to understand what is taking place.
Environment for the colonizer and the slaver came from Africa. During 4 centuries, there were so many interactions between these categories of population in this context of this diversity. Indigenous people there speak many languages and that belongs in different cultures. Slaves that came from another societies that speaks another languages and have a different cultural references. One of the results result of this interaction was a formation of a culture that was popularized by medicines, religions, expressions, and that they have at this cultural meeting. In one hand, the colonizer had to deal this natural world environment, mostly the fauna and flora, totally unknown for them. The colonial undertaking came with the extractivism that came with the loggers, and after 2 centuries they had gold in the Spanish America. They have gold and stone and precious stones. The removal of wood in Brazil got place at the sugarcane monoculture. There was the farm that was controlled with the landowners that produce exportation products. This was the first, in first place, the sugarcane that exports the sugar. And who was producing the food? And when the people got diseases, which medicine did they use? This integrative medicine is we are analyzing the case of medicines, and we are talking about the efficacy of roads, poisons, excrements, and knowledge respects that this way there is a medicinal arsenal that was a component that is very important to these adaptations in Brazilian lands. The people that came from Africa, they found out similar manners that with their own manners that use plants. There was incorporated in the cooking and in the therapeutic techniques. In addition of the Portuguese practice that result in a social formation and cultural formation based in blessings, prayers, and a diverse knowledge that compose this as this healing, and they got distance of the illness that has disorders in their individuals. In this way, this popular medicine was practiced by prayers, people that give blessings. There is, we use these terms, they bless, the men that bless the people, and the herbs like smokes and everything. That is techniques of healing techniques and techniques such as techniques of childbirth. There is ancestor knowledge that because the women, human help in the childbirth. On one occasion, I was in a river that is called Inauene, there is in the Amazon. In a house, the people that live near there, that we stopped to eat there, and the Mayhem, Dona Bella, she was a midwife, and she was, and I asked her, Dona Bella, how many childbirths did you do in your life? She looked at me. There was so many childbirths. Everyone that was born in this river, and also the deaf people, everyone got that everyone borns with me. There was so many childbirths. She helped everyone in that community. Because of it, this work is very important. There is an organization that the midwives in traditional communities and indigenous communities, that I think there is an institution that can't, that have to exist forever. We have the hospitals, but we have to do this ancestral knowledge. We have, there is a midwife that knows this work, and this woman, that child is not going to born properly, and there is a traditional knowledge, and there is in this moment that the childbirth is done properly. It's a work, it's very important. It's not a trivial work. It's something that is very important. So what I am saying is that the midwives, all of them, they gave the birth of all the people of the communities in this East medicine. The access of don't achieve, the people don't achieve, and is not assisted in the healthcare. So this traditional practice is very important in the countrysides or the village, a more distant village, is not just a topical resource. That there is a midwife that they say that is the medicine and everything, is not just a utopical resource, but mostly this valorative dimensions of beliefs that is present in the contemporary world. The majority of Brazilian population, it's declared like Catholics, although they drink teas and discounts with the blessers, and they is in the candomblé, terreiros, that is the African religion that is very important in Brazil, because they ask for blessings. The shadows there are the malevolent spirits that provoke diseases, the soul diseases and the body diseases. All these practices, they are referred to shamanism. There is a magical phenomenon religion common to the all traditional communities. There are the shamans that also know in Brazil, they are the shamans. Pajé is a word that comes from Tupi language. That means shaman is not the same, but the Brazilians talk pajé like shaman. The shamans, they are also known like pajés and blessers, healers and priests, that they can remove the illness and do the spells, and is the only one that can go to heaven, to the different layers of the sky. and the underground, and recognize which spirits that attacks the you people. The fight, the knowledge of the cosmos and of its inhabitants. It makes the shaman very strong to do this work properly. There are the techniques of ecstasy that the soul abandons the body, and due to shaman can do its journey. This trance implies in a relationship between the shaman and the spirits, and distinguishes that this possession, that the individual is possessed by the spirit. The trance of the shaman is not the spirit that the spirit incorporates in the shaman. The shaman meets the spirits. His soul encounters the spirits. And this soul has contacts with these spirits of the supernatural world. The trance imply and distinguish of the possession that one person don't choose to be a shaman. It's a gift that is recognized for another shaman due to its dreams. So many times a child or a young person or a woman or a man has this attack, or it's called an attack, epileptical attack. The epileptical in the indigenous communities, they are not treated like they are disease. They have an illness. They are treated by the shamans. The epilepsy is considered one trance that the person goes and then it's healed. And when the person comes back, the person
doesn't recall what is happening to her. She goes back and forth. She doesn't remember what is happening to her. The path of learning of this shaman is very long because its main objective is to gather mystic power, to use it socially and personally. In addition to that, to the knowledge of the chemistry and therapeutical practices that are known by the shaman and also by common people. Everybody knows the herbs, but the power to administer maybe a tea, this smokes, the certain things is given to the shaman, because when he does that, he is in contact with the world of the spirits. The idea of the condition is that these are caused by external factors. Conditions, they are not inside of the body, they are placed into the body. So, and it says that is a kind of witchcraft that was taken place in the people. That's the reason why this person is suffering. A person that attracts this witchcraft is a state of vulnerability that takes place after certain transgression because of bad behavior or something bad that is aimed to somebody. A person in a vulnerable state is very easily affected by a bad spirit that will harm that person that has caused a certain bad situation. Sorry, I'm lost here. the person is hurt, there is also the good spirits. That these good spirits, they will help the person to get rid of the bad or the evil. It's not a procedure that is applied to fight the evil in specific situations, but to reintegrate the patient in his wholeness, to give him back the soul to the body and strengthen his senses. These trances that we call like that is a shamanic feeling, is followed by specific feelings such as the singing, the calling for the spirits, and the instruments for that. This movement that they use, this trance, is one of these instruments. When a person is playing this instrument, he is inviting these spirits that will help him and allow the person to be healed, and will speed up this rattle that is used, that becomes itself the spirit himself. They use flutes, rattles, they have a kind of violin musical instrument that is made by them. It's very rustic, noisemakers, in addition to singings, dances that will form the set of possibilities that will make this movement. Mostly the healers, they are men. Most traditionally, women follow them, follow the shaman or the healer, singing and taking care of that patient that is sick. They also know the herbs, the plants, for they have a garden of herbs, and they know also how to use these herbs, because when this shaman travels, they're very dangerous and they can make the person more vulnerable. The feminine body is not able to follow, to have the risks of getting sick, because women can be pregnant or having their reproductive system affected by all that. However, women, they have always had healer powers. Having this quality, they are known and respected by these indigenous communities. Today, there are a lot of women, many women actually, that are shaman or healers. They are openly doing their work. They are looked for. There are very famous women that are shaman or healers as well. You have 13 minutes. Sorry, my God, 3 minutes only. Oh gosh. Well, I give 2 examples that are very important to mention. They are described in my papers. I'm gonna let you know 2 main examples. For the indigenous people, health issues, they are separate. They are not separate from the religious aspects of the condition. The shamanic system has connections amongst all the spheres of life. As an institution, they show the central concerns of the culture in the society as the flow of the energies and also the influence in the well-being of all living beings, including humans, non-humans, animated and non-animated. They encompass the overnatural, the social, the ecologic, and also the universe. Through rites, they promote the reconnection amongst the mythic past with the world vision and the life, the daily life. The healing is in the core of the activities of the shaman, that is to be a priest, physician, scientist, psychanalyst, promoting the integration of the soul and the body, giving back the integrality of the individuals in his relation with the society and also with the cosmos. So that's my speech. I thank you very, very much for your invitation and everybody's attention. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rosy. And thank you very much also, Lucia, for this quite interesting intervention. So now we will open the floor for our dear friend Luna Contreras, which is social worker, popular feminist educator, and a Colombian doula, which is also resident in Peru. She's part of the School of Doulas of the Pakarii Birth Center in Lima, Peru, and also of the GAFA of CEAAL Latin America. She accompanies birth since 2013, and with the League for the Freedom of Childbirth, defends the right to decide where, how, and whom to give birth since 2015. So welcome, dear Luna. She will have also 30 minutes for her presentation. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this invitation to participate in this space. I would like to start by asking permission to my ancestors to tell you the story that I will tell you now. I would like to begin with this story. My mother used to tell me that my grandmother told her and her great-grandmother told her about her birth. My grandmother got pregnant when she was 15 years old with my mother, and my mother was there in her tummy. My great-grandmother was a midwife. She accompanied all the births of the community, and of course, she had to accompany my grandfather. But my mother, during the whole pregnancy, she was like crossed, and my great-grandmother talked to her and stroked her belly, and my mother turned around again. My great-grandmother asked my grandmother to turn around to walk, and she talked to the baby and she positioned the baby again, and my mother turned around again. And so she decided to continue. She decided to pray to her ancestors, as I just have done, and ask them and she asked them for the baby to position itself when she gave birth. When the birth started, my grandmother walked and walked and walked, and because it was her first birth, it took a long time, several hours. She walked, she felt the pain. My great-grandmother gave her tea, mate, so she could pass this moment. She was with her, and when the birth was very well advanced, my great-grandmother told her to turn around and lift up her legs, and she talked to her and she stroked her belly when she was in this position. When she said now, she turned around. They turned my grandmother around, and at that moment is when they say, the story says, that as a piece of soap, my mother was born. My mother was born with her placenta. And I like to think that at that moment, inside my mother, I was there as a little egg. I was inside her already, feeling how the hands of my great-grandmother took her in her arms to take her to my grandmother's breast. And I want to say that at that moment, my great-grandmother sends me on this path, on this journey of accompanying births. And I thank these women that we knew and the women that we don't know, because I didn't know my great-grandmother, but I did know her through the words of my mother, through the births that my great-grandmother accompanied and my mother told me about, and through the stories that my mother told me about of how she listened behind the door to those births, that sometimes she could be with my great-grandmother. And starting with this story in this way, I would like to begin my presentation. Okay, so with all humility and humbleness, I want to talk to you about some of the work that I participate in. I'm a doula. I have been for 8 years. I am part of a school of doulas. It's Casa Pakarii, but I am also part of the GAFA group from CEAAL, where from popular education, feminist popular education, and different processes in Latin America, we try to accompany and visibilize the violences that women live and are subject to, and to find pedagogical tools to work in the necessary changes that our Abya Yala needs. So I'm going to speak from this place. This is my point of departure. And if I speak too quickly, please, interpreters, let me know that I need to speak slower. I am going to tell you about basically 4 moments. First, I will tell you about the experience of the School of Doulas. Then I will talk about the work that we are doing in Peru, that we support, but that now I'm not completely in, but I'm still participating in, about rescuing and recovering the knowledge of traditional midwives and traditional medicine. I'm going to present some videos of this work, and I'm going to finish talking about the theme of health in what CEAAL has been doing and what we are doing in GAFA in terms of health and mental health. So to start, in relation to the School of Doulas, the Pakarii School of Doulas, for those of you who do not know, we accompany emotionally the processes of pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. We accompany the midwives and the obstetricians, and be them traditional or academic. We also sometimes accompany doctors, and what we want to do is to care for the emotional moment of women, especially in cities where birth has been more instrumentalized, medicalized, where we have high rates of C-sections, where there is a high rate of obstetric violence, and there is lack of information for mothers to be, and they do a lot of programmed scheduled C-sections. Many times they are unnecessary. And within this framework, in cities, the doula movement in the world, and at least for the last 50 years, has tried to generate again this relationship between women and their bodies, so as to remember again. Because we are remembering, as I just recalled the birth of my mother, and the work of my grandmother and great grandmother, and that's why my mother decided to have me at home. This memory, we need to recover this memory, that our bodies can do this, that as Dialogue Top was trying to talk about before, this relationship with animals as well. We have to remember that we are mammals. We are mammals, and as mammals, when we give birth, our body can do it. But because we are so disconnected from these processes, we need to recreate these connections with nature, with feeling part of nature again, so we can trust the natural process of the body. This process that we do in the school comes from a healing process to accompany others, healing of difficult experiences, difficult births, difficult painful births, healing also our own disconnection with what is feminine, healing also the relationship that we have with our mothers and our fathers that many times make us, that when we become mothers ourselves, these ghosts appear that can maybe make giving birth more difficult. So we work a lot on these issues so we can accompany other women during their giving birth. Because when those of you who are mothers know that during pregnancy, everything comes back to mind, all these unresolved issues, that are not related to maternity, that are related to maternity, to what is feminine, and it is necessary to know what these processes entail so we can accompany them, so we can accompany pregnancies. A pregnancy can be an incredible process, can be a healing in itself if you help the woman connect to this process that she is generating from her own wise spirit that knows what she needs. For us, this process of the School of Doulas is also a possibility of strengthening and working on this sorority and solidarity between women, but in a much deeper way, because when I am in a situation of birth, I can even feel the contractions that the woman who is giving birth feels. I can feel nausea. I can feel the physical sensations that the woman who is giving birth is feeling. And that's when I realized the capacity, the ability that we have as human beings to connect with others, with other feelings. And in this connection that I feel, which is absolutely real, the connection of my uterus with the uterus of this other woman, of my heart with the heart of this woman. And in that moment, I feel that solidarity between women is possible. I feel that it is possible to really feel and to accompany ourselves, each other in this moment, because all women have felt menstrual pain, all women have felt, and we have gone through all these processes, and it is much easier for us to connect with that uterus, whether we have or not become mothers yet. In my case, I am not a mother yet, but we can connect more than men. Men can connect, but this connection is harder because they don't know what menstrual pain is. They don't know what this moment of going into this trance or this small giving birth that is menstruation each month. And that makes it different for men. This is why most cultures in the world, it is women who have accompanied other women. They are usually midwives. There are some men who take this role, but mostly they are women, because in that moment itself, we feel that we need that feminine strength to trust our own feminine strength. And one of the things, and this is the book that we are about to roll out, it's what it talks about. It has to do with giving back protagonism to the women. I am a feminist. I have been for many years, but I have never seen a woman more powerful than in the moment that she is giving birth to her baby, in the moment that she is giving birth to her child. I see her huge, enormous, brilliant and bright, and I feel that if we remembered how powerful we have been at that moment, and if we realize the strength that we have to transform the world, because we have strength to give birth to the world, and we can really transform this world much faster than what we think. I feel that this is the moment of greatest power if we allow women to live it in the way that her body is asking her to do so, the way that this baby needs her mother to do. I accompany births at homes and also births in hospitals and clinics, but births at home really allow women to feel that they are in their territory, in the same way that female mammals know that if they want to move, if they don't want to move, if she wants to be with someone else, if she wants to eat, and in the spaces they feel with freedom to decide. Because in hospitals and clinics, we know we are conditioned. They say the rules are this and that and that. You cannot scream here, you cannot move, you cannot do this and that. While at home, we are in our own territory. We are in our caves. Also for us, doulas in the school, accompanying turns into a way of life, because we realize that we do not only accompany women during childbirth, but we also accompany our comrades. We accompany processes of death in our families and communities. We accompany our children while they grow, when we understand that our mission is not simply to establish rules, but to accompany them in their process. And we find different ways of raising our children. And the school is also an opportunity of healing together these different forms of violence in the patriarchal world. It is an opportunity to heal and to help us approach these forms of violence with others, and to give these women the best birth possible, the best childbirth possible, and to give the baby the best birth possible. I feel that we are making peace at this moment. We are healing the wounds that we have, not only our own, but our female lineage wounds, and that we really need to have better childbirths and better births in order to change the world. As Michel Oden says, in order to change the world, we have to change the way we are born. And this is true. It is very real. I see this in the house of birth every day. When I see the children that come to Pakarii and that were born there, you feel as if they come from a different planet. They don't come from a different planet, but they were not born with violence. And so they are connected in a different way with themselves, with their bodies, with their independence. And you can see that we are generating change in these very small spaces. And it's a way of organizing against the forms of violence that we live. In this case, obstetric violence, making different activities and doing different things to visibilize these forms of violence. There are things that we can do, even being obstetricians, because there are many obstetricians and midwives that have gone through the academy, that are academic, that also become doulas, to remember that they are small things that they can do to make the experience in the clinic or the hospital very different. Even if they have to perform a C-section can be much more humane. And this is something that really gives sense to the work that we are doing as a school. And precisely because of this, well, here you can see some images of the formation processes when we start this path as doulas. This is a workshop and it shows the healing that we do. This is a photo of the graduation of doulas after doing several workshops and accompanying a lot of women. They finish with this process of graduation as doulas, so they continue accompanying. And this is another process of graduation at the school. And this year, we're going to publish this book that is called To Give Birth is Power, doulas and women accompanying women giving birth. It's a book that we have written with Angela Broco, who is the director of the school, and she has been head of the school for over 25 years. And for a long time, it was the only possibility of women giving birth at home. Our School of Doulas turned 16 years of age this year, and this book attempts to be a systematization of this experience. And it covers the doula reports that these women who graduated as doulas present for their graduation. And we tell here in this book what it means for us to accompany women. After, I would like to tell you about the process of recovering or rescuing the knowledge of traditional midwives and traditional medicine. We are also part of a much broader space, a platform that is called the League for Birth Freedom or Childbirth Freedom, where we try to generate this recovery of knowledge, and we try to learn some tools, very simple tools that can help in the processes of pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum for emotional accompaniment, to visibilize midwives precisely, and to recover practices and knowledge, what happens after childbirth, the use of plants during pregnancy and childbirth, rituals that we can use to heal painful situations before childbirth, losses or miscarriages, things that might generate some kind of difficulty in childbirth after. And we want to say that those who hold this knowledge are the midwives. For those of you who don't know, Peru has gone through a very painful process, and we continue to try to avoid that. During the government of Fujimori, there were many forced sterilizations, particularly to indigenous women, but many midwives were also sterilized forcefully, and this is a crime that the state has not recognized yet. But in this process, as of the year 2000, they started to persecute midwives, to persecute their knowledge. And at this moment, what we have are women in our country, women who have stopped practicing this millenary, this ancestral type of knowledge and medicine because of the persecution. They have been persecuted, their homes have been set on fire in many cases, so they have stopped practicing this type of medicine because they were afraid. And so for some years now, we are trying to revalorize, to revalue their knowledge and their work, and we're trying to recover, rescue this work and the essential work that they do, and we cannot let that end. We have to do a lot to recover their knowledge. So we are also trying to establish bridges with other types of alternative medicine, and also dominant medicine. We need to do articulated practices. That is what we try to do from the League of Childbirth. This is a beautiful drawing that was done in a documentary of a midwife, Puruka. She's doing this wonderful job of recovering the amazing knowledge of midwives. And I'm going to present a video here. It is called "To Give Birth During Lockdown." I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute so I can share the video with you. It's called "To Give Birth During Lockdown." To give birth, to let go, to dance, to love life. This opens paths. Life never stops. Life opens up paths. During moments of isolation, you are not alone. We are not alone. Outside, everything locks down, but inside, everything expands and grows. Each breath brings you closer to a unique moment. Don't let anybody prevent you from giving birth. Safety and faith. Michel Odon said that to change the world, we have to change the way we are born. More than humanizing childbirth, you are everything you need. Take that journey on the inside. Connect with your center. Your fears will go away. Find your female power. Feel your strength. Your baby is on the way. Talk to him and connect with your feelings. Trust yourself. You probably heard this. Your baby is too big. This is something you probably heard. I think it's better to schedule a C-section. Let's leave the dad outside. You know that your hips are made for birth. Our bodies are perfect. Do not let fear overwhelm you. You can plan and do your birth plan. From 1985, the World Health Organization talks about natural birth and births at home with professionals as a good option. There are protocols for this. You have the right to have a respected birth. You have the right to have skin-to-skin contact with your babies and to not be separated from them. We know that the birth at home has a lot of advantages, and it's a good option. It always has been a secure method, and it still is. And the pandemic shows this even clearer. To give birth is natural. Let's take care of this space that is sacred. Empower your birth and the birth of your baby. Live your childbirth. Your grandmothers have knowledge. The midwives of millenary traditions hold this secret. Let's take it back. Your baby knows how to be born. It is protected from any contagion. It is born with immunity from the mother. Your breast is its first vaccine. It needs your body, your heat, your smell. It needs to listen to the beatings of your heart. The person who has life, it's you, woman. Your body is transformed and knows the path. You are already given birth. What is yours is yours. It is inside you and it belongs to you. What is outside is outside. Don't let that silence your voice. Don't let this pandemic determine your birth. Submerge yourself in this special moment. The birth is yours. Your childbirth is yours. Childbirth is yours. Childbirth is yours.
Bueno, este es un video.
That is a video that we did last year during the pandemic to remind women that they still had rights and that the pandemic could not take away those rights. And this was part of the campaign that we did. And now I want to show you a short video of the Maisal collective here in Peru from popular communication to recover this ancestral knowledge of midwives.
Bueno, desde CEAAL,
Okay, so from CEAAL, we consider that in order to decolonize knowledge about health, we need to do this from the construction of popular education processes that also come from our own cosmologies, our own knowledge, our popular knowledge. From GAFA, the group, the anti-patriarchal feminist group, what we do is to try to create spaces of self-care among women and also of collective care, because we feel that it is crucial at this moment to accompany ourselves, each other,
cómo es necesario realmente poder
like the pandemic, how necessary it is to really reinvent ourselves and find other ways of accompanying each other pedagogies to do this. We also work on the autonomous health of women, to find other ways of healing each other through emotional support, through talking, through creating. We also work has to do with the visibilization of our sexual and reproductive rights. And we consider that in order to decolonize, we also have to talk about the depatriarchalization of life and affects, because the patriarchy is what has made childbirth, which is what I wanted to talk to you about, are completely medicalized and instrumentalized, and women lose protagonism there. So it's important to depatriarchalize life so we can celebrate life, celebrate our bodies, because we have the right to have a life without violence. Both men and women have the right to this, and in this we have to have the right to decide about our bodies, if we want to give birth or not, and if we want to give birth, how, when, and with who we want to give birth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luna. And now we have the next speaker, Professor Manneke BUDIMAN. He is Professor of Literary and Cultural Studies, Faculty of Humanities from University of Indonesia. He was trained in English literature, comparative literature, and Asian studies. His research has been concerned with issues related to hegemony, resistance, vulnerability, and resilience in the context of global local interactions, urbanism, and popular culture, particularly in the urban and peri-urban areas in major cities in Indonesia. Please.
Thank you, Tsui, for the introduction. Hello, everybody. I am not part of the networking, and so I hardly know anybody in this forum. So it's really nice to meet you today in this dialogue. What I'm going to talk about is located in a distinctly different setting from what the other speakers have conveyed so far. It's not in the jungle, it's not in the rural area, but I'm going to talk about the urban kampungs. So it's a village which is located in the urban area. The language, the term that we use is kampung, and I think it is also used in the English language as well. So this is a small part of a bigger research project, in interdisciplinary research funded by the University of Indonesia on urban-rural dynamics, led actually by the principal investigator, Professor Melanie Budianta, who is also present at the moment in this forum. And the research consists of 3 clusters. The first cluster is the health cluster. The second is the social innovation cluster. And the third one is the kind of the socio-cultural background cluster, which is under my responsibility. So my team conducted research in 4 different kampungs. Two are located in the city of Jakarta, the capital city of Indonesia, and the other two are located outside the capital city of Jakarta in the peri-urban area in the provinces next to the special capital region of Jakarta. So my cluster is cluster 3. So the research was conducted from 2019 until 2020, and then suddenly a pandemic broke out, and suddenly it had to be stopped. We were not allowed to go to field work anymore by the university, and most of the kampungs that were our research sites have been locked down so far because of the pandemic. So unfortunately, and I have to apologize to you, I will not be able to tell you much about what has happened after or during the pandemics in those kampungs. But I hope that the pattern or the tradition, the existing practice that we studied in our research before the pandemics may be able to give you a glimpse of what has been happening until that point, until 2020. In my team, there are researchers coming from different disciplinary backgrounds, from the humanities like myself, but also from social sciences departments, from engineering department, and different departments in health sciences. So for the research on herbal or traditional medicine, which is part of cluster 3, socio-cultural background research, there are 3 objectives that we try to achieve. The first one is to investigate the ways in which herbal or traditional medicines have been practiced in those 4 kampungs in relation to the coming or the advent of modern medicine, along with urbanity and modernity brought by the urban expansion to the kampungs. The second objective is to determine the extent to which transmission of tradition, of ancestral knowledge from parents to children and so on have played a role in the continuation of the practice of traditional medicine or herbal medicine. And the last one is to find out whether the existing practice signifies a resistance to modernity in general or to urbanization in a more specific manner, or whether it is a form of resilience rather than resistance when faced with a sense of vulnerability, which is caused not only by the urban expansion in the conventional sense, but also by the changing environment and the changing climate and the pandemic is like what we are having now. So kind of a non-human phenomena. So these are the 4 research sites. 4 urban kampungs in the capital city of Jakarta, and so 2, and then the other 2 are actually located in the satellite city of Tangerang, which is a province next to Jakarta. The first kampung is Cikini. It may be quite challenging for the interpreter to say the names of the kampung, especially the second one, So for the second one, Gedong Pompa, let us just use the second word, Pompa, and skip the first word. Okay, so the first one is Cikini, located in central Jakarta. The second one is Pompa, which is located in the waterfront of the northern part of Jakarta, bordering with the Bay of Jakarta. And then the third one is Kampung Markisa, which is located in Tangerang province. And the other one is Cimone, another kampung located next to Markisa Kampung, also in Tangerang province. Both of them, the last two, are actually not located in the capital city, but in the peri-urban area of the capital city. So this is the map. I hope you can see the cursor there. Cikini is located right in the heart of central Jakarta. And then if we go north, that's Pompa at the waterfront of North Jakarta. And then if you go left to Tangerang province, you will have Markisa, Kampung Markisa, and then Cimone, Kampung over here. So this hopefully will give you kind of a spatial picture to help you understand my presentation. So the Cikini Kampung, the size of the kampung is 3.1 hectares. This is a typical, very dense urban kampung. The population of that kampung is between 3,800 to 5,000 inhabitants. Why is it difficult for us to pinpoint exactly the number of the population? Because the inhabitants of this kampung are consisting of permanent residents and non-permanent residents, people who just stay temporarily and then they find another job and they then move out somewhere else. So it's really hard to have a fixed number of inhabitants. Pompa in North Jakarta, there are 800 households. The size of the kampung is 2.32 hectares. And consisting of 1,500 inhabitants. Kampung Markisa, there are 247 households, and the size of the kampung is 3.8 hectares. And then Cimone Kampung, the last one, consists of 82 households, comprising 252 inhabitants. The size is 1.3 hectares. So in terms of size, all these four kampungs are actually small, but in terms of the population or the inhabitants, it's really dense and it's quite complex and dynamic setting in those kampungs. So this is the a more detailed map of Cikini. The kampung is located on the left side and on the right side of the alley or passageway, narrow alleyway in purple in this map. Okay. And this is the Pompa in the northern part of Jakarta near the harbor. So within the blue lines, this is the area actually, but the but the kampung area where inhabitants live is over here. And this is the water pumps to pump water out of the city into the ocean during the flooding season. That's why it's called Pompa. This is Markisa Kampung. You can see the border here. Oh, sorry, this is the Cimone Kampung. It's kind of vertical and narrow. And then the other one, Marquisa, is a bit like northeast of Chimone, next to each other. So you can see also the border of the kampung, and you can see the density in all of the kampungs. So we have collected 717 valid samples of household units in all. Actually, there are more than 4 locations, but for the purpose of herbal medicine research, we only focused on the 4 kampungs. And for the purpose of this research, we gathered 236 respondents to participate in the survey and in the interview as well. So in terms of the gender of the respondents, 85.6% are women. Why? I think it's quite obvious. You know, if you want to talk with the inhabitants about traditional medicine, about herbal medicine, practically almost about everything in their everyday life, then the women or the female respondents are much more reliable and willing to participate compared to the male ones or the men. Okay, so we think that we have got the right category of respondents here. In terms of education, 65.7% of our respondents for the survey, they have a junior high school or high school education at the most. A number of them even have a lower level of education, elementary school, and very few went to continue education after high school, such as to vocational a community school, for instance. Interestingly, almost all, or 94.1% of the respondents, they claim to have health insurance, either mandatory state insurance or insurance provided by their employers, or private insurance programs in which they participate. And very few don't have insurance at all. So the general health conditions of these 4 kampungs not really giving us a positive picture. We focus on 3 areas of issues. The first one is the changing eating habit. There is this very serious and disturbing shift in terms of consumption pattern from consuming homemade cooking, organic food, into growing consumption of inorganic processed food. Such as, I don't know whether you know chiki, taro, which kids love very much. And that's why the major consumers of this new type of food that are consumed in the 4 kampungs are actually children. And then the second issue is the water quality issue. The clean water that they use for cooking and for drinking is generally in these kampungs contaminated by contaminants like heavy metal, manganese, and fluoride, way above the safety standard set by the government. Which is also what we have found in our research. And then the third one is in terms of the kinds of illnesses that they face on the everyday basis. We have found also that there is a high prevalence of metabolic syndrome, and this is directly caused by the lack of vitamin D. And in addition to metabolic syndrome, there are also quite high number of cases of intestinal infection among the inhabitants. So this is the general picture of the health conditions of the inhabitants. And in addition to health issues, we also identified some pressing social issues that can be related directly to urbanization and urban change. The first one is the changing mentality among the inhabitants of the kampung from what used to be a strong collective bond in the past, in which everybody would be willingly and readily helping each other whenever they are in need. That very positive practice is now changing, replacing by a transactional mentality of the urban capitalist system, in which, then before I decide to help somebody, I would ask myself, what do I get in return for that? So it's getting more and more transactional, loss and gain, and money, of course, heavily involves in this process of changing mentality. And then the second social issue is the effort or the attempt to promote healthy lifestyle in these kampungs, both by the government as well as by non-government agencies such as NGOs and activists, have been seriously hindered or slowed down by the challenges that the inhabitants of the kampungs have been facing for so long, ranging from pool water quality, contaminated water, domestic and industrial waste in the surrounding areas, and then the low level of education, and also the lack of supporting infrastructure, which limits accessibility and availability of basic everyday needs, such as clean water, for instance, that is not contaminated. And then the third social issue is mobility, which is about the high extent of human migration, both from outside urban area into the urban area, or from the center of the urban area to the periphery or the peri-urban area at the outskirts of the capital city. And also the fact that there is a high number of non-permanent residents that keep on moving and only live in the kampung temporarily. So because of all this, then the living space seems as if continuing or continuously shrinking. So these are our major or important findings, that more than 50% of our respondents, they use traditional medicines or herbal medicine in their everyday life in order to help improve their health quality, or to maintain their health, and also to deal with illnesses, but not severe illnesses, mild illnesses. And the other finding is that more than 50% of the respondents who have used traditional medicine or herbal medicine more than 3 times a year. And the means of the transmission of knowledge, of the ancestral knowledge, is the majority is actually from parents or from family, in comparison to other means, which I will go back again and show you later. In Marquisa Kampung, 59% of the respondents claim that their knowledge of traditional medicine is actually inherited from their parents and from their parents' parents. In Timone Kampung, it's a bit lower, 47.5%. And remember that these two are actually located outside Jakarta, whereas the two kampungs located in Jakarta, Cikini and Pompa, we have a significantly lower percentages of respondents inheriting in the indigenous or knowledge from their parents or grandparents. Pompa is a bit high, 50%. Pompa is a quite problematic area. It's an urban kampung, but it's not located in the city center, but again, almost at the periphery because it is bordering with the ocean. And then the other set of findings in terms of what they think about the effectiveness of traditional medicine. Whether the traditional medicine that they take is 100% effective in dealing with illnesses, in curing them from illnesses or not. So again, not very surprising. In Cikini, it's only 35.7% who believe in 100% in the effectiveness of the traditional medicine. And in Pompa, it's a bit higher, 37.5%. I forgot to mention here on the slide the percentages in Marquisa and Timone. So let me add it in my presentation. In Marquisa Kampung, those who believe in 100% effectiveness of traditional medicine reaches 61.7%, so quite high. Whereas in the neighboring Timone Kampung, it's also high, but a bit lower, 54.5%. So these are the two figures that I would like to add to point one of the second set of findings. Mm-hmm. And then in terms of whether they plant their own herbal medicine, in Marquisa Kampung, 82% of the respondents, they said that they plant their own herbal medicine. And Timone area also equally high, 77.5%. And notice again in Cikini, it's very low, only 14.8%. And in Pompa, it's even lower, 5.4%. In addition to the moderate level of belief in the effectiveness of herbal medicine, remember that Cikini is a very narrow kampung, and Pompa is also a very small, dense kampung. So another reason for these lower percentages probably is the limited availability of green space or open space for the inhabitants to plant their own herbal medicines. Now, the last point of the second set of finding is whether they believe in the 100% efficacy rate of modern medicine. So the first, the earlier, which I have just explained now, is traditional medicine. So now we talk about modern medicine. So in Cikini, which is again located in the city center, 54.3% of the inhabitants believe in 100% efficacy rate of modern medicine. In Pompa, it's a bit lower, 42.5%. In Marquisa, outside the capital city, further lower, 34.8%. 34%, and Chimone is the lowest. Only 9.1% of the inhabitants believe in 100% efficacy of modern medicine. So these are more information, the reason for taking traditional or herbal medicine. Most of them stated that they use herbal medicine for mild illnesses. You can see the comparison here among the kampungs. And then they use the medicine because of positive previous experience with curing illnesses. Actually, it's quite small, which is based on previous experience. In Marquesa and Chimone, even in Chikini and Pompa, the figures or the percentages are bigger. From the point of view of affordability and practicality, we see 20% point in Marquesa, 25% in Chimone, and then Chikini 24 and Pompa 18. Curiosity, this is an interesting part because they inherited the knowledge from their family or their parents. So there is curiosity to prove the efficacy of the inherited knowledge. And that's a very strong reason for them to take or to use traditional or herbal medicine. So as you can see, 59% in Marquesa, 52% in Chimone, and then getting lower in Chikini and Pompa. Source of information, mostly from parents or family, also from friends, usually living in the same area. And then the last two, personal experience with past illnesses and local cultural influence, not that significant. So this is our analysis. So the first one is, it is clear that the further the distance of the kampung is from the city center, the smaller the impact of modernity is, modern medicine, on the kampung community, which is the case in Marquesa and Chimone. And then also the fact that both Marquesa and Chimone have some green space, not much, but they have some green space to grow their own herbal plants. That may play a factor in their inclination toward taking traditional medicine more than the inhabitants of Chikini and Pompa. In addition, notwithstanding the data and the findings that I have just mentioned to you, it seems there is no significantly strong resistance of the inhabitants to modern medicine. So the fact that they rely a lot or use herbal medicine as part of their everyday practice, that doesn't mean that they resist modern medicine. Even though reliance on herbal medicine is bigger, especially in the two further kampungs. So it's not about resistance to modern medicine. And then, sorry, let me check chat in order to probably, okay, no. Being in the margin of these four kampungs makes them have this sense of vulnerability, makes them vulnerable. So that is probably the fundamental motivation to holding on traditional medicines. So that is symbolically a way to come to terms with the challenges resulting from urban expansion, from migration, urbanization, from pandemics, from water crisis, so many complex multi-dimensional problems, which are beyond their control or their power to solve. Okay, so that is where the sense of vulnerability comes from. And to respond to that sense of vulnerability, traditional medicines is one thing that they can hold on, okay, in order to have some sense of control of their own life. That's why we see an indication of resilience more than resistance, because of the precariousness of the situation, the unpredictability, the uncontrollability of their living circumstances. And as Melanie Budianta has pointed out elsewhere, part of the resilience of the local communities is the social commoning that they develop among themselves. Social commoning here refers to the activation and mobilization of existing local potentials and resources in a creative or innovative way in order to help them better adapt to a large-scale, multi-dimensional change that is happening to them. So that is the usefulness or the importance of social commoning. And then, although on the surface, resilience sounds to be more passive than resistance, in fact, actually, key to this resilience in this four kampung is the presence of agency. Without agency, resilience would not be there. Okay? So agency does not exist only in resistance, but even equally important in resilience. Why? Because in order to be resilient, what is required is strategy, initiative, innovation, and adaptability. And all these could only be developed if there is agency, a genuine agency among the communities of the kampung, in order to face the precarity or the precarious circumstances of their life. So this is, in terms of conclusion, the politics of herbal medicine or traditional medicines. It is persistent, among the inhabitants of the kampungs, especially those located in the peri-urban area, because herbal medicine becomes a factor that helps keeps the balance between taking modern medicine, which also means accepting modernity, and consuming traditional herbal medicines produced locally, which could also mean preservation of tradition. And at this, something stays, something continues as a practice. And at the same time, they accept modernity, but they don't passively submit to modernity. So this is, I think what I am trying to say. So it could also mean keeping some control over their own life while accepting the limit of what they can do in the face of urban expansion, in the face of crisis, in the face of pandemic, like what is happening at the moment. So these are types of herbal medicines that are planted or consumed. I can only give you some English equivalents for the name of the plants and the Latin equivalents. And you can see the figures of the four kampungs, the kinds of herbal medicines that they plant or that they consume as part of their everyday practice in living in the urban setting or peri-urban setting. So thank you so much for your patience. I hope I don't take too much time of other presenters or for the discussion. These are just quickly and briefly the names of the team, consisting of people coming from different backgrounds: humanities, pharmacology, engineering, sociology, parasitology, demography, and environmental science. And with that, I stop share my presentation. Thank you so much.
We would like to invite Katarina Weingartner. She also knows about the situation in Africa, and she is the filmmaker of the documentary named The Fever. We also saw it in the webinar in World Social Forum, and that documentary questions malaria management has a colonial legacy and portrays the fight against malaria in East Africa as a case study in grit, courage, and self-determination. So we would like to invite Katarina to say something about your film and also your campaign for Ask for the Social Change. Thank you.
Thank you very much for letting me speak in this really honorable circle here. I've just learned so much from the last presentation. Thank you so much. I'm very, very interested in traditional medicine, and it's hot in Vienna, 34 degrees, can you believe it? Since we all watched the film together, and some of the participants, I think, were also a part of this, a few things happened. We had made plans to do film screenings in Uganda, together with the introduction of Artemisia annua for malaria treatment. And I had been in touch with the Ministry of Health in Uganda, and in December it looked like we could go ahead with this program. And I was also looking for scientists to come along and actually really try to prove that if in a village this way of treating malaria with Artemisia afra, we wanted to try, together with getting the information through a film and really teaching the people how to use it, that it could really have an impact village by village. And we were already in the process of finding funding to do this exemplary in Uganda and hopefully then spreading to all of East Africa. And in April, I got the information from the Media Council of Uganda that our film is cannot be shown anywhere in Uganda because it contradicts the WHO guidelines for malaria treatment. And if in the film we promote the use of herbal medicine that is not approved by the WHO, so it's dangerous, it's unethical and unscientific. So now the film has been banned from Uganda, which really I did not expect. And I only have, how can I say this politely? I have some suspicions why this happened. I don't think that it's actually the Uganda Ministry of Health who really wants this. The Uganda Ministry of Health is very interested in herbal treatments because also now in the COVID pandemic, which they seem to be in a third wave, and they have no other means than this, you know, the things that grow around them and that can be so easily available. So now we have the good news that we are invited by the Zanzibar Film Festival, and Zanzibar is a wonderful place with a lot of traditional knowledge that has been preserved, I think, I hope. I've never been there, but we are showing the film there, and we have a panel also together with the film about malaria and COVID and traditional herbal remedies. And I think Tanzania and Madagascar are also leading in the fight against COVID on a traditional herbal way. So we are going there now, and I hope that we can make contacts in Tanzania. If anybody here knows people in Tanzania who are knowledgeable and want to connect, please write the names chat. we're not giving up. We're trying country by country now if somebody wants us with our film and our malaria treatment knowledge, and we'll hang in there. If you have any questions, please ask.